Hey everyone, welcome back to Bahal Recap. Today we're diving into The Cured, a thrilling story about what happens after a zombie virus is cured. But society refuses to forgive the infected. Things get intense, so stick around till the end. Let's get started.
Welcome. Our film tells the story of the future where a strange virus takes over the earth, infecting many people and turning them into zombies. Many countries manage to control the disease and eliminate it, but the only one that gets destroyed is Ireland, where all the people turn into monsters. Over time, a small number of the infected improve and start returning to their normal lives. Although they recover, nobody wants to deal with them and everyone fears them, believing they have to be killed to prevent further infection. These survivors are tortured and imprisoned until they suffer severe psychological effects, experiencing constant hallucinations. We get to know one of them named Sinan, who manages to escape the prison and save himself from this torment. When he notices signs of improvement, he begins to relax a bit, and his friend Grover visits to check on him, encouraging him to embrace life again and forget what happened. Later, he sits with a military officer named Cantor, responsible for monitoring the recovered individuals, and Sinan shares with him that he was infected 4 years ago. He lived through a great deal of suffering, and Cantor encourages him, telling him that if he keeps thinking about all the hardships he's gone through, he'll realize how brave he is and will be able to continue with his life. He also tells him that his wife's sister has recovered too, and that he can see her anytime. He takes him with him and shows him what's happening in the streets. Sanan is shocked by the chaos and fear among the people and the constant conflicts between the civilians and the army, and none of them can bear the situation at all. Sanan gets upset when people call him a killer, saying that he and others like him must die and they treat them terribly. Then he stands to say goodbye to his friend Grover, telling him he's left a secret with Abjel, his brother's wife. At this time, Abjel sits with her little son at home, and when Sanam arrives, she warmly welcomes him. She tells him that she and his brother Mark got separated during the evacuation and she hasn't heard from him since. She assures him that she will stay by his side like she is his own brother and asks him not to worry or be anxious. When Sinan goes to sleep, he keeps thinking about what happened before. He recalls the day of the attack when he and his brother Mark were sitting together and a zombie entered their house and attacked Sinan. Mark runs to find his wife but can't find her in the whole house. Seeing the zombie bite Sinan, Mark tries to save him, but unfortunately, Sinan is injured. Knowing he'll transform, he pleads with his brother to run away fast to stay safe. After a while, Sinan transforms, loses control, and acts wildly. The next day, Grover goes to speak with his father, trying to persuade him to return to work with him as before. His father completely rejects him and fights with him, seeing him like everyone else as if Grover is no longer a normal human and must die. Sinan arrives at the center where he works and Dr. John calls him over, asking for his help to inject the patient because she can't control her at all. Sinan approaches her and manages to calm the lady because his body still has some remnants of the disease, enabling him to feel that she's infected like him. Everyone in the neighborhood is upset with Elegant, treating him badly for keeping Sinan at her house. She tries to ignore all their comments. At this time, Grover visits Sinan and tells him everything that happened to him, saying their situation is terrible and must be resolved quickly. They see that they need to gather in one place to feel safer and avoid harm. Officer Cantor arrives, informs them of the new situation, and stresses adherence to the laws. He tells Grover that his family disowned him and no longer wants to deal with him. Grover gets angry upon hearing this and attacks Cantor, but of course the guards stop him and beat him, throwing him to the ground. Sinan stands aside watching, feeling very sorry for his friend. When he tries to help him, he finds guards standing in his way, threatening him with their weapons. At night, Sinan recalls the incidents he went through. In the morning, John sees threatening messages written on the door of the house. Realizing the people have killed a large number of the recovered individuals, she becomes very worried about Sinan, promising him they would leave the house within a week. She meets Grover by chance, talks to him for a while, and learns everything he's been through lately, which affects her deeply. After a while, he hears a strange sound outside and realizes that people are trying to storm the hospital. He goes downstairs to the unit and hears someone screaming in the storage room. When he follows the sound, he is shocked to see a woman locked in a cell in terrible condition. He knocks out the guard standing in front of the door and helps her escape. Unfortunately, the guard reaches her just in time, strikes her with the flashlight, and she dies in the end. Sinan is affected by what happened and feels very sad for her. The officer justifies everything he did and tells him that she would have died anyway and he shouldn't be upset about it. The doctor appears on the TV screen and talks about the recovered and the infected, trying to defend them. She sees them as human beings who deserve a second chance to live like everyone else. The reporter argues with her, saying they are a danger to society and must be eliminated before it's too late. When Grover hears all of this, he becomes even more scared and decides they must unite away from the government because they could be disposed of at any time. He tries to convince Sinan to help him, and indeed, they gather some Molotov cocktails together and decide to take control of all the houses belonging to the army. They cause a commotion to grab the government's attention, break into some houses and blow them up, causing everyone to fear the ongoing situation without understanding it. Around midnight, Abigail's manager arrives at her house, asking her to quickly cover the events unraveling. It's then she notices Sinan is not at home, becoming extremely worried. The next morning, the news spreads everywhere, resulting in chaos and increasing public anger against the cured, who are feared more than ever. Sinan is upset upon learning someone died because of him the previous day, and he begins to recall the day of the incident. We realize that Grover is the zombie who bit Sinan, causing his transformation. Sinan becomes angry with his brother Mark for attacking Grover, almost killing him, while Mark tries to explain the situation, convincing him that Grover is now a monster, not his friend. Later, he sees a picture of the doctor and the same patient trying to treat him at the center. Sinan understands that they were very close friends, trying together to find a cure, and when he returns home, Abjal speaks to him, pressing him to admit if he has any connection to what's happening in the country. Sinan insists he knows nothing about it, and she tells him about returning home to find a part of it in ruins, feeling very upset. Sinan takes her and her son to a place, telling her that he often came there with Mark and had a great time. Then Officer Connor visits them, discussing the events with them. Sinan becomes anxious when Abjal speaks harshly about the rebels, insisting they should be caught soon to be made an example. Her intensity frightens Sinan, and Connor asks what she would do if she knew who killed her husband. Upon hearing this, Sinan becomes visibly tense, as he is actually the killer. Abjal refuses to discuss it, smiles, and goes to sleep. Sinan tries to convince Connor that he is uninvolved, suspecting him. The next morning, as soon as Sinan leaves, Connor arrives and speaks to Abjal privately, convincing her there is a plan. The survivors are doing it to take revenge on the rest of humanity and get rid of them. He gives her a full file on the subject and asks her to investigate to benefit herself and find any useful information. When she opens the file, she's shocked by pictures of Sinan and Grover as zombies. She decides to sneak into the center secretly through the back door. She sees 5 survivors standing together in a circle, performing strange rituals, and she captures everything she sees. Then she goes down to the second floor and finds Grover giving a speech to a full team. She learns that they really are planning something and becomes very worried about them. A woman sees her and runs to catch her forcefully, trying to hurt her. Grover runs to her, preventing them from approaching, and takes her aside. He justifies everything he's doing, but she insists he's harmful and that she was deceived by him, asking him to stay away from her family. She leaves and notices a few people following her, realizing they want the camera she has. She runs quickly to avoid being caught, jumps out of a window, exits the building, and escapes the place completely. At that moment, the doctor discovers that the army has eliminated a large number of the survivors. She feels very upset about it and decides to go down to talk to her friend and check on her. Unfortunately, as soon as she approaches her, she attacks her and tries to bite her. The soldiers hear her screaming and rush to save her. They tie up her friend and decide to take her to quarantine with the other patients. The doctor pleads with them to give her some time to treat her, but they refuse and take her away. That night, the doctor secretly meets Connor. At the same time, Abujal hears a noise outside the house, goes out to see what's happening, and suddenly finds a masked person attacking the house, calling him a traitor. The attacker brutally hits him, reminding him of his brother's death. Suddenly, the man flees and disappears. Abujal reports the incident to the police, but unfortunately, no one cooperates with him, considering it natural due to the home's history of survivor residency. He realizes this exposes Sina and her daughter to danger. He goes to Connor and asks him to return to work and help at the treatment center again. Abujal is shocked to find out that the person who attacked them stole the memory card from the camera. She confirms that Krober did this, and she calls Connor to inform him what happened, telling him that Krober is planning something disastrous. Sinan is surprised to find the doctor with the team, and she explains she's trying to save her friend. Sinan tells them he can't help by killing anyone else, and just as he's about to continue speaking, he hears a strange noise outside and sees the guards arresting someone. He tries to help, but the boy stops him, deciding to face the punishment alone, asking him to leave. However, Sinan refuses and follows them until they catch him, pressuring him to talk. Meanwhile, Abgel meets Krober, who reveals everything about Sinan and that he killed her husband, even showing her proof. At the same time, Connor sits with Sinan, interrogates him, and promises to protect his family if he talks. Sinan insists on remaining silent, and since there's no evidence against him, they let him go. On his way, he meets a team member who tells him about their new meeting time. When he returns home, he finds Abigail waiting, angry. She confronts him with the truth, and he remains completely silent, admitting he actually did it. She screams in his face and demands he get out of her sight immediately. Afterwards, he meets Grover and admits that he told Abigail the whole truth. He justifies it by saying he did it to prove to him that anyone can turn against them suddenly and show no mercy. At that moment, Sinan realizes that Grover has lost his mind and can no longer control his anger. Suddenly, Connor attacks them and orders them to surrender, as he is convinced they are behind everything that's happening. Grover refuses and attacks him brutally. He draws his weapon, confronts Sinan, accusing him of ratting him out, while Sinan defends himself, explaining that he's only trying to prevent him from hurting anyone else. At that moment, they hear an alarm sounding everywhere. Grover tells him that his plan has started and immediately flees. The next morning, he wears a shoe. A team like doctors enters the center easily. They know the password and reach the control room of the place. They are aided by Joanna, who is determined to rescue her friend, only to be shocked when one of them threatens her, pressuring her to open all the chambers. She realizes the place will descend into chaos, so she reluctantly complies. Sinan arrives, walking among the infected and the transformed, but no one harms him because his body still carries the virus, masking his scent. When one of the team tries to escape, Sinan quickly stops him. The army learns about everything and a large number of soldiers arrive, firing from all directions. The team activates a bomb, blowing up the entire place and opening the gate with ease. Naturally, everyone inside manages to escape and spreads throughout the country. Sinan tries to protect himself in any way possible, afraid that someone might accidentally step on him. He hides until things calm down a bit and is surprised to find the sick doctor still in her place, not having escaped with them, and decides to help her since she's alone. When he exits the building, he sees the infected devouring the soldiers around it mercilessly. At the same time, Joan reaches her friend, rushing to talk to her and assure her that she'll take her to a safe place. Unfortunately, before she can do that, one of the infected attacks and bites her. Abigail hears a loud commotion outside the house, grabs an axe, and goes out to see for herself. A zombie tries to attack her, but she manages to fend it off just in time. She sees a massive crowd of zombies invading the whole neighborhood and wonders how to act. Some soldiers take her away forcibly to clear the area of humans. She tries to stop them, insisting she must first grab her daughter from school to escape with her, but they refuse to let her move. She wanders the streets, anxious as she watches soldiers fire at the infected, fearing she might be shot. She runs into Abigail by chance. He's with the soldiers, shouting and pleading for her to save her daughter. The soldiers engage in a massive battle with the zombies throughout the town, spiraling out of control, and Grover coldly watches a soldier die at the hands of a transformed zombie. He refuses to help him or even show him mercy, and his anger and malice become apparent. Abigail moves with the others to a large ethical place, learning that all those who are healed are not allowed in that camp. She fears Sinan won't reach his niece in time. Sinan arrives at the girls' school and finds children running in the street out of fear. He keeps shouting and calling for her until he finds her and quickly picks her up, fleeing through the streets. He doesn't realize Grover is watching from afar. A moment later, Grover confronts him with zombies, ready to attack Sinan. Sinan tells the girl to run while he tries to fend off the zombies and protect her. Grover prevents Sinan from escaping, threatening to kill him, and at the same time, some zombies chase the little girl to eat her. Sinan endures all the harm to save his niece at any cost. The soldiers continue their battle, killing many zombies. Accidentally, Grover is shot and Sinan seizes the moment to reach the girl, contemplating killing Grover before leaving, but reconsiders after hearing the girl's terrified screams. He goes to catch her and finds her hiding under a car, surrounded by zombies from every direction. He has no choice but to stand and face the situation himself, defeats them all, and takes the girl to return her to safety. He's shocked when he learns that Grover escaped again and is still alive. Meanwhile, Abigail talks to a guard, arguing to let Sinan in when he arrives, but the guard refuses, saying he can't break the rules. A big fight ensues with everyone watching, causing chaos as many try to escape. Abigail takes the chance to flee. Once outside, she is shocked to find a dead soldier on the ground, and a zombie appears behind him trying to bite her. She grabs the soldier's weapon and shoots the zombie quickly. When the soldier reanimates, she is forced to kill him too. Dr. Joe watches Juan's body in sadness and decides to stay put and accept the situation. Abigail finally returns home, relieved to find Sinan and his daughter safe. Suddenly, a zombie appears and tries to attack them. Sanani decides to sacrifice himself to protect them. He approaches and keeps hitting until he dies. Afterward, Abgil feels despair and considers killing her child herself before he turns into a monster because he has already been bitten. Sanani rejects this idea, takes the child from her, and tells her that he will stay with her until he finds a cure. He takes the child and quickly escapes before he turns and harms his mother. The following day, news spreads across the country that zombies are taking over everywhere and no path is safe. The government tries to control the situation and find a solution as soon as possible. Abgil becomes worried about her son and decides to look for him to make sure he's safe. She searches in various places until she finds out that Sanani had taken him and escaped from the infected a while ago, and they are staying in the countryside. Sanan tries to protect the child and insists on staying with him to make up for what they did to his father. And that's where my movie ends today.